The cabin lights flickered as passengers boarded the late afternoon flight. Richard Barnes, a quiet man in his early 60s, adjusted his carry-on bag and checked his boarding pass one last time. Business class. Seat for A. He had worked decades running his small construction company. And though he never splurged on himself often, this flight was different. He was traveling to see his daughter for the first time in 2 years, and he wanted the journey to feel comfortable. But Richard had no idea that his seat, his carefully chosen reward for years of work, would spark a conflict that would leave the entire cabin watching in stunned disbelief as he placed his bag in the overhead bin. A loud, commanding voice echoed behind him. "Excuse me, you're in our seat." Richard turned. A woman in her late 40s stood there, clutching a designer purse like a badge of authority. Her tightly curled blonde hair was immovable, her eyes sharp, her posture stiff. She carried herself like a queen inspecting peasants. Behind her trailed 2 teenage kids, both holding soda bottles, and a man who looked worn down by life, her husband, perhaps. Richard gave a polite smile. "I think there's been a mistake. This is for business class. My ticket says so." Woman Karen, as Richard would later hear her husband whisper, rolled her eyes dramatically. "Yes, I know what your ticket says. But you need to move. My family needs these seats. My children can't possibly sit in economy for 4 hours. Do you know how cruel that would be?" Richard blinked, stunned by her tone. "Ma'am, I paid for this seat. I'm not moving." Karen huffed, her voice rising so other passengers turned their heads. "Unbelievable. Some people have no decency. You're a grown man, you'll survive in the back. But my children, they'll suffer. You want to traumatize them?" Teenagers didn't look traumatized at all. One was scrolling on his phone, the other chewing gum so loudly it echoed. Richard took a slow breath. "I'm sorry, but I'm staying in my seat." Karen's face flushed red. She threw a glare at a nearby flight attendant. "Excuse me? Hello? This man is refusing to give up his seat for my family. Do something." The flight attendant, a calm young woman named Maria, approached with a professional smile. "Ma'am, can I see your tickets? Or shove them forward?" Maria glanced at them, then politely explained, "These are 4 seats to 1B, to 1C, to 1D, and to 1E in economy. I'm afraid these business seats are reserved." Karen gasped as though insulted. "Reserved for him? He doesn't need it. Look at him, he's perfectly fine, but my family deserves comfort. We're paying customers too." The husband tugged at Karen's sleeve. "Honey, please, just go to our seats," she snapped at him. "Quiet, Harold. Don't embarrass us." The flight attendant's smile tightened. "Ma'am, I need you to proceed to your assigned seats so we can finish boarding." Karen's eyes darted between Richard and the attendant. For a moment, Richard thought she might explode, but with dozens of eyes on her, she let out a dramatic sigh. "Fine, but don't think this is over." She stormed down the aisle, her family trailing behind. Richard sat back, exhaling. He thought it was done. He was wrong. For the first hour of the flight, Karen fumed in economy, her voice carrying forward. Passengers exchanged amused looks as her complaints filled the cabin. "This is ridiculous. My back can't handle these seats. Those people in business are selfish. My poor children are suffering while he hogs a luxury seat." At one point, a teenage passenger leaned over to Richard and whispered, "She's been ranting nonstop. Everyone back there hates her already." Chuckled softly, but he stayed quiet. Then came the twist. Halfway through the flight, turbulence rattled the plane. A sudden drop made passengers gasp. Drinks spilled, and the seatbelt signs lit up. Karen screamed loud enough for the pilots to hear. "This is because we're in economy. We're unsafe back here. My children could have died." The crew moved, calmly reassuring passengers. But Karen seized the moment, storming up the aisle despite warnings to stay seated. She reached business class and pointed a shaking finger at Richard. "This is your fault," she shrieked. "You stole our seats, and now my children are in danger. Switch with me now." Gasps filled the cabin. The flight attendant quickly intercepted her. "Ma'am, you must return to your seat immediately." But Karen refused. "No, My kids are going to die back there while he lounges in luxury. Richard, though shaken by the turbulence, spoke firmly. Ma'am, your children are as safe as everyone else. This isn't about safety. It's about you wanting something that isn't yours. The cabin went quiet. Karen's face twisted. For a moment, she looked like she might strike him. But the flight attendant raised her voice, steel in her tone. Ma'am, this is your final warning. If you do not sit down, we'll have security waiting when we land. The words seemed to pierce Karen's bravado. She froze, glancing around at the many passengers glaring at her. The power she thought she had vanished under their eyes. She turned, huffing, and stomped back to economy. The last 2 hours were tense but strangely peaceful. Whenever Karen muttered complaints, other passengers shushed her. Her husband sat silently, staring out the window. Her children, tired of the drama, put on headphones and ignored her. Richard, meanwhile, enjoyed his seat in quiet gratitude. He sipped coffee, watched a film, and thought of his daughter waiting for him. When the plane finally landed, the captain's voice came over. The speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Please remain seated as security will be boarding momentarily. Passengers exchanged knowing smiles. 2 uniformed officers entered the plane. They walked directly to row 21. Karen gasped, clutching her purse. You can't be serious. I was the victim here, she cried. But the officers didn't argue. They escorted her off as she sputtered about selfish passengers and unfair treatment. Applause broke out in the cabin. Richard gathered his things and stepped off the plane, his heart light. At the arrivals hall, his daughter ran into his arms, tears streaming down her face. Dad, you made it. He held her tightly, smiling. Wouldn't have missed this for the world. Behind him, Karen's angry voice echoed faintly as officers spoke to her. But Richard didn't look back. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly free. This story is just the beginning. There is so much more ahead. Subscribe to the channel to join me on this journey.